Predator cubs stole her coffee. The ship ran at 200% energy for 3 days. The USS Horizon's Edge had been Lara's home for 2 years now, drifting through the Andromeda sector on a deep space diplomatic mission. As the ship's chief engineer, she'd grown accustomed to the peculiarities of working alongside 7 different alien species, but nothing, absolutely nothing, had prepared her for the Krath. The Krath were apex predators from a death world where the gravity could crush a human flat and the atmospheric pressure would liquefy bones. They stood 8 feet tall, covered in obsidian scales, with eyes that glowed amber in low light. The Galactic Council had insisted on bringing a Krath family aboard as cultural ambassadors, a gesture of unity that Lara had privately thought was insane. She'd tolerated their presence. She'd even grown fond of Ambassador Krathsel, who treated her with the careful respect one might show a particularly clever pet. But his 3 cubs, Vex, Nala and Score, were another matter entirely. It was 0600 hours when Lara stumbled into the ship's mess hall, her eyes barely open, her shift starting in 10 minutes. She'd programmed the coffee maker the night before, a beautiful Colombian dark roast she'd been saving for 3 months. The aroma hit her first, rich, bitter, perfect. Her mug sat on the counter, steam rising in delicate curls. She reached for it. A blur of obsidian scales shot past her peripheral vision. No tritomonoxide. Lara screamed, but it was too late. Vex, the largest of the cubs, had snatched the mug in his clawed hand and tilted it back, drinking the entire contents in one gulp. His siblings chittered with laughter behind him, their tails whipping excitedly. For a moment, Lara stood frozen. Her last coffee for another 6 months until they reached the next supply station. The cub blinked at her, tongue flicking out to taste the remnants on his fangs. Gufford, he rumbled in broken standard. More. Something inside Lara snapped. You want more, she said quietly, dangerously. You want more. Milo, the ship's navigator, chose that moment to enter the mess hall. He took one look at Lara's face, pale, twitching, her fists clenched, and immediately understood. Oh no, Lara, what happened? They drank my coffee. Oh hell, Milo breathed. What happened over the next 3 days would become legend among human vessels, across 5 sectors. Lara returned to engineering and didn't sleep, didn't eat. She moved through the corridors like a caffeinated ghost, her eyes bloodshot, her hands steady despite the tremor of pure spite keeping her upright. First, she rerouted power from non-essential systems, climate control in the alien quarters, known as the Krath liked it hot anyway. Gravity stabilizers in the recreation deck. Who needed recreation? The ship's theater. Definitely non-essential. Milo found her 12 hours in elbow deep in the quantum core housing. Lara, you need to rest. I need to make this ship go faster, she muttered. We're reaching that supply station in 4 days instead of 7, or I'm ripping out the plasma conduits and drinking them. That's not how physics works. She turned to him, and Milo actually stepped back. Her eyes had taken on a manic gleam. Watch me. By hour 24, the Horizon's Edge was running at 147% normal energy output. The captain, a mollusk-like Threen named Glubless, called an emergency meeting. This is impossible, the Threen warbled. Our engines aren't designed for this sustained output. We'll burn out the core. No, we won't, Lara said flatly, standing in the corner of the conference room. Her hair stood up in wild angles. She'd forgotten what her quarters looked like. I've redistributed the thermal load across 17 auxiliary systems and created a cascade cooling loop using the waste reclamation processes. You weaponized our toilet systems, Milo asked, impressed despite himself. I weaponized everything. Ambassador Krathsel shifted uncomfortably, his massive frame barely fitting in the human-sized chair. Chief Engineer Lara, my cubs meant no offense. They are young and did not understand. They understood perfectly, Lara interrupted. They saw something I valued and took it because they're predators, and that's what predators do. Well, guess what? So am I. The Krath blinked slowly, a sign of deep consideration in his species. You are prey species. Small, weak. Lara smiled, and it wasn't a nice smile. We're humans. We're the species that chased prey until it died of exhaustion. We're the species that looked at every poisonous plant and said, but what if I eat it anyway? We colonized a death world we call home where the weather tries to kill us, and the animals are either poisonous or venomous, or both. And we made pets out of the apex predators. She leaned forward. You think you're scary because you evolved on a high-gravity hell planet. We chose to stay on ours. The ambassador's scales rippled Milo had learned to recognize. I will reach that supply station, Lara continued. her voice dropping to barely above a whisper. I will get my coffee, and your cubs will learn that you don't steal from a human engineer running on spite and the memory of caffeine. By hour 72, the ship was screaming through space at 200% normal energy output, leaving a wake of distorted space-time that would confuse scientists for years. 3 different safety protocols had been manually overridden. The engine room sounded like a dying whale, and Lara stood at her station, hands steady, eyes locked on the reader, running purely on fury and the promise of dark roast redemption, when the Horizon's Edge limped into the supply station 4 days early. With its hull plating warped from heat and half the crew traumatized, Lara was the first off the ship. She returned 3 hours later with 17 bags of coffee beans and a smile that made the Theskabs hide behind their father. Milo found her in her quarters that evening, finally asleep, curled around a bag of coffee like a dragon guarding treasure. He gently draped a blanket over her and whispered, "Never mess with a human's coffee." From the doorway, Ambassador Krathsel watched, his amber eyes thoughtful. He'd learned something important about humans on this voyage. They weren't apex predators because of strength or speed or natural weapons. They were apex predators because once you wronged them, they simply would not stop. And sometimes, that was far more terrifying.